Hey there! So in this video I want to talk about how to do proper gain staging on both USB microphones and audio interfaces. This video will have 3 chapters. In chapter 1 I will show you how to access the control panel. This is kind of important because in the system settings you don't really have many choices to make when it comes to the input device. All right. So let's start up with part 1. So again, in the system settings, you don't have many choices to make. You cannot really change much about your microphone here. As you can see, you can simply test the microphone, but that is pretty much it. You cannot change the level. You cannot change anything here. You simply have what you have. So, if you want to open up the control panel, you simply click on the Find a Setting bar and you type in Control Panel. Here you can find the control panel and simply click on it. By default, it might not look like this, but more like this. If it does, click on View By and Category and change this to small icons. It doesn't matter whether it's small or large icons. As long as it is not this category setting, it's fine. Right. So you look up your sound setting and click on it. This opens up this little window. In this window, you can change all the settings for pretty much any audio playback or recording device. So for a playback device, it can be, for example, a headphone jack on your USB microphone. It can be some software that you use, or it can be your audio interface or sound card, or even a monitor, a display. So this is mine. Anyways. Under recording, you will find, for example, your capture card, if it has an actual recording device. You will find your audio interface, and for that it will be the inputs. So that's actually what we are interested in. For USB microphones, it will be the actual microphone, not, the headphone output or something like that. So you will find that here. Right. Let's start with the second chapter now that we found this setting. We want to open up this window. How to do that I just now showed. And now we're going to talk about it. So you look up your USB microphone. For the Blue Yeti, it is quite simple because these devices are sorted by the name in the second row. You cannot change that name. And since the Yeti microphone by default is named Yeti Stereo Microphone, you can most likely find it all the way on the bottom, or at least quite far on the bottom if you have many devices. All right, so you click on it and choose Properties. In here, you click on Advanced and you make sure that the default format is set to 2-channel, 16-bit, 48,000 Hz. You will not be able to set 24-bit here, most likely, because USB microphones usually don't have that elaborate input-output device. It's quite cheap, actually. So yeah, 16-bit, 48,000 Hz it is. After that, you click on Apply and choose Levels. By default, the level of a USB microphone is set to 59. I have no idea why it is exactly 59 by default, but yeah, that's how it is. So this is what you choose. Or let's say this is what Microsoft wants you to choose. What I recommend you to do, though, is this. You want to set it to 0. And no, this is not a joke. Setting this to 0 doesn't mute your USB microphone. It just makes it quieter. Because all this level control does is adding software gain. And you don't want to add a artificial amount of software gain. You rather want to do that very specifically if you have to. All right. So you set this to 0. And after you did that, you can simply click OK and you can be done with the, well, Windows part of setting up your USB microphone. So on the USB microphone itself, if it has a gain knob like this, then you simply choose the gain knob and you set it as high or as low as it needs to be. It really depends on your voice. It depends on the distance to the microphone. Lots of factors to be, to be an influence on that setting. So there is no right or wrong. Simply set it so that you reach minus 24 decibels. How can you check that? It is simple. So on any input software, on any software that processes the signal, you will have by default, without any filters or plugins or what have you applied, you will have simply the input just the way it comes from the microphone. And since we did set the USB microphone to 0 on the levels, it's going to be really just the level from the microphone. No artificial amplification added. So if you have a gain knob on your USB microphone, set it as high as needed so that you reach minus 24 decibels in average. You will not be able to always hit that. It depends a little bit on how loud you speak. Sometimes you will be quieter than that, and sometimes you will be louder than that. It depends. But yeah, minus 24 decibels it is. And that concludes how to set up your USB microphone. So for a audio interface, we need to go back for the settings app or the the sound control panel, this little window. How do you open that? I showed that in the first chapter, so if you did skip that, you might want to go back and actually check there. Right. So this time we look for audio interface, not a USB microphone. If your audio interface has multiple inputs like mine, then you will have most likely more than one input here. Because only 2 inputs will be combined into one. And that's it. Right. You do again a click on it on whatever device has your microphone, and you can simply find out by, cranking the gain knob on that audio interface and start talking. You will see that this meter starts acting up. Right. So you do a click on it and you choose properties. Under advanced, you will find this default format setting. If you cannot change your setting here, You will have to do that in whatever audio interface software you have. For example, for my audio interface, which is a Moto M4, this is going to look like this. And there you can change just the sample rate. The bit depth, most likely, if it is a 24-bit audio interface, is going to be 24-bit anyways. Right, so you set your sample rate, so it matches 48,000 Hertz. And if you want, you can change the buffer size, but unless you do the input to OBS with an additional plugin that you would need, you cannot make use of the buffer size here. Right. So set this to 24 bits, 48,000 Hertz if possible, 16-bit, 48,000 Hertz if need be. Then you can check the levels. You will notice this is set to 100, but you will not set this one to 0 like the USB microphone. You will actually leave it at 100. Why is that? Because for an audio interface, this level control behaves like a fader. So literally, if you set on an audio interface this to 0, you're muted. On a USB microphone, this is going to add, software gain if you choose it anything higher than 100. That is the difference. That is why I'm doing this, separate for USB microphones and audio interfaces. So audio interface 100. If it is a USB microphone, it's going to be 0. That's that. So how do we set up the gain? From here on an audio interface, it's stupidly simple. You simply choose the gain knob. And that's that. And again, you take a look at the input devices on whatever software you use to change your sound with. Just to have an example, if you use OBS to check the input of your microphone, you will simply have this display. It's not as exact because it doesn't have an exact minus 24 decibels marker, but really whether it's 24 or 25, it doesn't matter at all. 1 decibel is almost imperceptible, little of a difference. Right. So you want to make sure that your gain level on the input without any plugins, and this is what on this window you see on the red side, the input, you want the input to be at about minus 24 decibels. OBS for me shows just the output because, OBS comes for me after this software. That is the reason why I cannot use OBS for checking the loudness. But obviously you could, especially if you didn't do any post-processing yet. If you did, you simply click on the 3-dotted button below the meter and choose filters. This will open up this window. If you have any plugins here, you will be able to disable them without deleting them by clicking on that eye symbol. If you do that, that filter will be disabled. Just like that. All right. So this is how to set up the gain on your audio interface. And this concludes my actual guide on how to do gain staging on USB microphones are audio interfaces prior to actually changing the settings around so that your microphone sounds great. And this is what the next videos will be all about. Thanks for watching. Bye.